This is an SM Media production.
Hello, folks, and welcome to the debut episode of the Rangers Assessment, the SM Media exclusive Rangers podcast. I'm Scott McPike. It is a pleasure to be your host for this debut show. I thought I would get an old friend to come and help me with the launch of the show. So the first guest of our show is a man you might have heard in the airwaves before in this channel. It's a pleasure to welcome back Craig Ray.
Well, Scott, that was a really great introduction, by the way. I know it's probably the best introduction I've had in my life. I appreciate it, but no, it's really good to be on. I'm really excited for the season coming ahead, so let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. And a debutant onto the channel, it's a pleasure to welcome. You might have heard him in the Rangers Rabble. He's somebody I listen to quite a lot and I've always been impressed with any time I've heard him on a podcast. It's a pleasure to welcome onto the show Robert Clark.
Well, listen, cheers for the invitation to come on. Obviously looking forward to giving you 45 minutes, hopefully decent content. And thanks for the invite as always.
Absolute pleasure. It's two voices you might hear going forward in the Rangers Assessment. It's been an interesting journey to get to this stage. It's been a while to hopefully launch a Rangers exclusive channel. So brief explanation of what's going to be coming up over the next kind of few months. We are going to have hopefully a daily kind of piece going out on the website, looking at all things Rangers. It could be in terms of new signings, scouting reports, tactical analysis. There's a lot going to be going out this week in particular. You're going to see 4 types of content going out on Monday and then 1 the rest of the week. So tune in for the rest of the week. You'll see some exciting stuff. And going forward, the plan is from the beginning of the season to have a weekly Rangers podcast. So tune in. There is a lot going out, but it's been all things that go at Ibrox over the past few months. Michael Beale obviously getting his own stamp onto the side. Made 2 signings in January, Todd Cantwell and Nicholas Raskin. Both look really impressive. So it's a good symbol to start with. And it's been a busy summer, Craig. A lot of new signings. We'll go through the signings one by one, but safe to say Michael Beale is putting his stamp in this squad.
Oh, 100%. I think that's the best part about it. I was a wee bit worried, before, the new season started. I was thinking, look, I've seen it before. Is the manager going to have a say in the signings? The manager's 100% having a say in the signings. Every single signing that we have made this summer, it's Michael Beale's signing. So at least if things go pear-shaped, we know who to blame. But I think Michael Beale likes it that way. Do you know what I mean? He loves it. He's 2 signings in January. Can't be helping asking. Fantastic. Bit of a shame we couldn't get him in earlier, but do you know what? It's his squad. It's his squad going forward. That's what I've wanted for a wee while. So we trust the man. Let him do what he wants. Let's see what happens.
Robert, I find it very interesting. Obviously, Craig just brought up that point there about Michael Beale's own signings, and I think that's a very interesting point because I think even with Steven Gerrard, there was obviously talk of frustration about not getting the players he wanted. I think with Van Bronckhorst, the argument can certainly be made he wasn't getting the players he wanted. So with Michael Beale, you obviously don't have a director of football at the moment. That will probably change in the future. But right now, it starts and ends with Michael Beale. He's getting the players he wants in, and every single signing looks to be exactly a player he's identified.
So it's not just the fact that he's getting the men he wants, it's the manner in which he's doing so. If you listen to the players that we've brought in so far, I know we'll touch on names individually probably later on, but most of them are saying that this has been going on for months. He's had sit-down chats with them. He's done the whole looking in the eye and to actually get the measure of these guys. So he's really put the legwork in. He's done his homework on these guys, and they seem to have a bit of a background in the sense that all these guys seem to be maybe a bit down on their luck, maybe looking for a home, maybe looking for a fresh impetus. You can only go off the 2 boys that he's brought in January, who have been taken to the supporters' hearts straight away, and they look like they've really bought into the club as well, especially Cantwell. And even on the pitch, those two players in particular seem to have a strong connection already. So this pre-season is massive in terms of we're going to have a lot of new players in the squad, so we need to really bed them in quickly because, as you know, the big games come around thick and fast in terms of Europe. So, but no, I was kind of concerned were we going to get our work done early, and we have done pretty much as the season came to a close. The links to sort of likes of Jack Butland came in, and then Dujon Sterling as well, and I was delighted we're getting them over the line quite quickly. The one that we'll probably touch on later on, Cifuentes, seems to have dragged on. Will he come in this window? Maybe the next window, we'll wait and see. But no, delighted with what was done. And you can't fault the board at the moment because they've backed the manager. There's been money spent.
And the board are obviously there's a lot of change going on there as well. It's an outgoing in terms of the likes of the old core, likes of Park, Robertson, Wilson. They're all gone to Passers due. Bisgrove and James Bisgrove, John Bennett are certainly kind of have the keys as such. Bisgrove obviously been very vocal in terms of fan engagement, which is something I want to touch on much further down the line because I think that's been a big improvement. But the interesting thing, we're going to have a piece going out Monday about James Bisgrove and just how one of the big things for me was giving the manager the freedom to make his own signings. And I see a lot of Michael Beale doing a lot of chasing, like he's identified targets, and it's not like one bid and then you never hear from them again. There's pursuits going on and they're getting deals done. And I think a lot of credit has to go to Bisgrove and Bennett for maybe the best way to describe it is I think the old board, I think the phrase conservative was very fair, Craig. I think they very much like to keep the pennies held back if they could. I don't think they wanted to overspend. And I think a big thing with this summer has to be, I think that for the player trading model, to get a squad that can win now, you have to front load a lot of money, and fair play to them, they've done it so far, Craig.
You're right, mate. I mean, I think Bisgrove's brilliant, by the way. I'm just going to say that out loud. I mean, look, at the end of the day, he's done the business at UEFA for a good few years, so he knows what he's doing. He's not a stupid man. He knows what he's doing. He came to Rangers in 2019, I think it was. Every single thing he's promised, he's delivered.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
He said, we're going to, treble the commercial revenue? He did it. He did it in the space of 3 years. So, do you know what I mean? He's a man of his word. He's proven that. He's proven that already. Now, obviously, it's a bit of a, it is a step up, right? Let's be honest. It's a step up going for the commercial director of Rangers to the, the main man at Rangers. We know that. But, to be honest, I like him. He's had that experience at UEFA for about, a good 5 or 6 years before he was at Ibrox, which means he knows what it takes to, in this new era of football, the new era of football that we don't like, but we all take part in it anyway. We all pay for it. But do you know what I mean? And it's I think with Bisgrove and Bennett, you've got a good balance there.
Yeah.
You've got Bisgrove, you've got the man in charge there that, he's got the business now, this, that, and the next thing, and you've got Bennett there, who's also a very, very successful financial businessman, but he's a Rangers fan as well. And it's you've got the best balance there. And that's what it's like now. It's you need a balance. It's all about balance. You've got Bisgrove there. He's been at Ibrox for a few years' time. He now knows what it takes to be a Rangers chairman or CEO, or whatever his title is. We know it's one or the other anyway. But he knows what it's like. And see all the stuff about Australia, I know we'll probably come and touch on that. But he was the only person that stood up and actually bared responsibility for that. So do you know what? Fair play to Bisgrove for that. He did not have a clue about, Rangers, Celtic, this, that. His job is come into Ibrox, make as much money as you can. He done that. And then as soon as obviously there was a thing way to make more money, people went, oh, you can't do that because that's Celtic. But he turned around. He was the only person that took questions from the media. for that. And as you referred to earlier, Scott, fan engagement, I know you're going to come to it later on, but he's doing that as well. He seems like an honest man, a nice enough guy. You can be honest with him. You can have an upfront conversation with him. That's all you ask for. Do you know what I mean? That's all you ask for in a chief executive. Do you know what I mean? We just want to be informed. And I know with the last regime, with Park and Robertson and Wilson and blah blah blah, I understand the frustration, but I really do think now we've got a man there that's going to, well, he could do a good job, he could do a bad job, but at least he'll do an honest job.
And Robert, I think that's the thing. Obviously, a lot of points here about kind of modernising. Like, I see now a modern Rangers, and I see that in terms of, like, even outside the ground, driving by it the other day, I see a more nicer looking Ibrox to what I've seen in years gone by, and you see obviously the plans, a lot of good plans. Like, you see a lot of Ibrox improving disabled facilities is something I've been very vocal on over the past few years, and it just seems a fresh impetus. It just seems more of a modern day Rangers, which is something I don't think we've been able to say in many a years.
Listen, we're definitely going in the right direction off the park. There's no doubt about that. I think we want to be going in the right direction on the park. Now, you mentioned the previous regime. Mistakes were made there. Steven Gerrard left Rangers because he wasn't backed after winning the title. There's no question about that. And then you look in the summer last year, when Broncos gets into Champions League and isn't back there either, and then that led to a torrid time in Europe, which I think actually fed into domestic performances, because due to the World Cup, the games were coming thick and fast, and I don't think we were picking ourselves up after these, doings they were on European nights. So all you can ask is, if you make mistakes, you learn from them, and this new board seem to have learned from the old regime's mistakes, because they've come in, they've said the right things in terms of fan engagement, etc., but they've actually put money up, and they're backing the manager. So for me, the board they'll be under no scrutiny as long as they're winning things. See, if you don't win things, that's when people start picking holes in your network up there. So hopefully, we're talking in 12 months' time about a successful season in terms of silverware, and we're not talking about revenue and things we've done off the parks. I want to win things. That's what we're here for. That's why I support Rangers.
Yeah, and I think a big thing of that is obviously the squad upheaval. Obviously, there's a lot of players now no longer there who'd definitely stayed on too long. And I'm thinking the likes of Alan McGregor, Ryan Kent, Alfredo Morelos. They're all going different ways. We'll touch on Alan McGregor later, obviously, 'cause it's a big week for him. But it's been a complete fresh start. A lot of players are there now. Again, I think one of the biggest crimes that the old board are responsible for is the fact that there's no incoming money for Ryan Kent and Alfredo Morelos. I think that's ridiculous in this day and age that those two guys left for nothing. But again, we could moan about that all day, but we're looking into the future, who's come in. First signing I want to touch on was the first that was announced. We knew this was happening for a while. Very similar mould to Todd Cantwell, I think, a player in England who is going to come up as a young talent, lost his way a little bit, is Kieran Dowell, a young midfielder, obviously at Everton, went on to Norwich. Craig, I'm really excited about this one. I think in terms of the pressure on signings this summer, I don't think there'll be much on him because he's a free transfer. But I look at Kieran Dowell, I look at his age, look at his profile, and he ticks boxes for me in terms of a young talent who can play a wide number of roles. I think he could fill in right midfield. He could be a number 10. He could play in that kind of box to box area. I think we've got a really exciting player to look at from a Rangers perspective.
Well, absolutely, he can play a number of positions. He's kind of like a Scotty Arfield when you think about it. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I've obviously lost him in the summer, which I'm still not happy about. I still wish we gave Scotty Arfield another year, but, I understand things happen. But Kieran Dowell, he's still young as well. He's only about 25, 26. He can play, as you say, Scott, a number of positions. And I mean, to be fair, when he was going down that golf buggy in Germany with John Lundstrom the other day, he was saying a lot of great things about Rangers when they were doing their zero chant one. But I mean, look, I think he's a good player. He's a type of player, he's a mould of transfer that we should be looking at. Do you know what I mean? Because, like, let's face it, right? If you take contract situations out the way, how much is Kieran Dowell worth? We have about 3 years on a contract, about 4-5 million quid. See if you're painting up for a free transfer, you'll take that every single day of the week.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know what? We'll take it. Listen, he could turn out to be the worst player ever, but we'll make money off him because he'll either be a very good player for Rangers or he'll be a rubbish player for Rangers, but he'll get sold in a year's time down to a championship club. So either way, it's a good signing. I like him. I like him. Especially like his attitude. You know, I've was saying the wee joke there, the golf cart with Lundstrom and Dowell, the two Scousers, saying nothing in that 7-minute Rangers TV YouTube video, which is quite funny. But do you know what? We need people like this. We need people that can come in. Seeing that number 10 position. Nowadays we've got Dowell, Hadji, Cantwell, we'll get Tillman anymore, but Lowry. We've got 4, 5, 6 players there that can not only do a job, but do the best job for Rangers. So it's very, very exciting. It is. It's really, really exciting, mate. I'm buzzing to see him because I'm kind of like you. He comes under the radar. Nobody knows who he is. He's like, everybody's talking about, Lammers and Dessers and blah, blah, blah. But Dow could go and score about 10, 15 goals next season. Free agent, there you go. I mean, if that happened, that would be brilliant. But I'm very excited to see him anyway. Put it that way.
Yeah, Kieran Dowell, obviously the first one. Next one, Dujon Sterling from Stoke City. Michael Beale, there's a wee bit of history there. Michael Beale obviously had him at Chelsea when he was the youth team coach. Robert, again, makes a lot of sense. Young player who can play all over the defence. Has a small injury. I've been told it's not serious. But again, I find this very similar to maybe a Calvin Bassey type. Someone who can come in, fill a number of roles over the next couple of years. And again, still get youth on his side. I think that's a player who could go for a lot of money if he's handled right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, he even mentioned that he'd spoke to Calvin, didn't he, about the move and sort of jumped at it, got the right vibe off Michael Beale as well. You like to think that Sterling's going to come in and actually challenge because James Tavernier maybe have been guilty of having to play under too much duress and play too many games. Hopefully Sterling's going to come in and maybe take a bit of load off him. In terms of Kieran Dowell, I think he maybe been the forgotten man of the window because obviously we've spent money since then on bigger names. So both these guys, I mean, I'd say Sterling more so than Dowell on the face of it, could potentially do what you've just said, a Bassey. But we link back to what you said previous. You need to sell the guys who are at the peak of their powers.
Absolutely.
There's no room. If you're gonna be a club that does this player trading,
We haven't done that.
No, we have not. Craig, you're absolutely spot on, and we need to learn the lessons because you then looking at Glenn Kamara going for 3 million quid when you could have got 12 million quid for him 12 months ago. So it's there's no room for sentiment. We'll lose bigger players than Alfredo Morelos, and we have done in the past. So I think if we are serious about a player trading model, then that needs to be something we need to jump on. But at the moment, I'm not looking to sell these guys. I'm hoping they're going to come in, hit the ground running, and really get what playing in front of 50,000 every week's all about. Get what winning every week's all about, and obviously trying to make a better marker in Europe because I didn't enjoy the Champions League last year at all. Great to get there. Brilliant for the club in terms of prestige and obviously revenue, but in terms of performances on the pitch, it was an absolute non-starter. You were dreading the Wednesday and Tuesday comings. You're thinking, well, just how many is it going to be? That night in Amsterdam was dreadful. Obviously, then you've got the Liverpool game as well. It just didn't happen for us at all. So I'm hoping that these guys that are coming in, not a lot of them have got European pedigree. Let's hasten to add, are they going to be able to make that step up? That's down to the manager and what he puts into them, and obviously a system that we're going to play to get the best out of them. So we'll wait and see. But in terms of the overall package and what we are bringing in, the two guys you've touched on there initially on free transfers, low risk. I don't imagine they're going to be on bags of money. I do think, slightly disagree with Craig on Kieran Dowell. I think he might be more of a squad player, to be honest. rotating with the guys you mentioned before, Hadji. I'd like to see Lowry get a few more games this year, and obviously we've got Tom Lawrence to come back in as well. So I think to really get the most out of our squad, we need to start burying teams first half so we can get the maximise these 5 subs, maybe on the hour mark, and get players on the park when it's 3-4-0. Because last year we're sort of 1-2 up, and you think you can't make the changes because these might come back into the game. So I think we want to be playing with a higher intensity and maybe try and putting teams to the sword a lot sooner. But again, we'll wait and see what kind of style we play, because I'm hoping there's a bit of a change. I kind of felt like last season we were adapting to the teams we were playing rather than playing a style ourselves. So, interested to see what Michael Beale's got up his sleeve.
Next 2 signings were free agents. Firstly, Rangers finally fixed the goalkeeping position, which they've kicked into the long grass for 2 years, and the long pursuit of Jack Butland was made official. Again, being a Rangers goalkeeper, the pressure is constant, and he is going to be a player who's going to be under scrutiny every week, and it's only natural with being a Rangers number 1. Again, 30 years old, Craig, makes a lot of sense to me. I don't think he'll be the number. I think we might see a mistake in him. He's very prone to mistakes in the past, but I do think at the age of 30, he's chosen to come to Rangers, where he's got a chance at first team football, where he was I know he was offered a lot more money to be a third choice at Man United. So a good sign that he wants to be part of a first team squad, and I think he will be the number 1 for a few years if everything goes to plan.
Well, if everything goes to plan, I obviously will be number 1 for a few years. Listen, Jack Butland. Oh dear. Look, I like the idea of Jack Butland. I really do. But there's a wee bit of me that's just, I don't know. Because he's not played that many games the last few years. And listen, I really want to be proved wrong. I mean, if somebody comes up to him like 6 months' time saying, "Oh, he proved you wrong." By the way, he's played about 40 games for Rangers. He's kept 35 clean sheets. I'll be the happiest man in the world. He'll be brilliant. But do you know what? Michael Beale trusts him, right? We'll talk about Robbie McCrory here as well, because I mean, if I was a manager, obviously I'm not a manager, right? I'm not as well versed in football as Michael Beale is, right? But Robbie McCrory's played like the last 4 or 5 games for Rangers. He's only lost 1 goal. Only lost 1 goal at Hibs. Probably should have done better, but who cares? It's a meaningless game. If it was me going into the next season, I would have said Robbie McCrory's your number 1 goalkeeper, in my opinion. But Butland's there for the reason. Now, Butland has done extremely well for like Birmingham City, Stoke City at Championship level, lower Premier League level. Fair enough. Brilliant, by the way. But the only thing that puts me off about Jack Butland is the fact that he's hardly played any football the last 2 or 3 years. But what I really like about Jack Butland is his personality. He's doing press conferences saying, I understand about, Alan McGregor and Andy Gorham. I realise the pressure that I'm under at Rangers. And he's saying that I don't want to be like, obviously I want to be like them, but he's like that, I'm going to be under pressure. They're going to be like, they're the best ever. McGregor and Gorham are the best ever at Rangers. And he's like that. If I can have something, even a percentage like them, then I'll be great.
Yeah.
And that's true.
I mean, just to jump in on Butland, I actually think he could be the signing of the season. I really do.
Mate, I hope so. I really hope so. I really hope so.
I know you touch on he's not played a lot over the last couple of seasons, and that's a fair observation. But I do think when listening to him say he's got ambitions of getting back into the England squad,
that's what I like. That's what I like. He's got that's it. Aye.
He's come to play, and I think he's a goalkeeper of probably the highest quality we could have got, especially for nothing. I dare say we'll get money and wages. The only downside is obviously the news this week, or the potential news that this is going to force McCrory on somewhere else. A shame.
Fair play him, but for wanting a first team jersey somewhere.
Well, I'd like to think he'd have stayed for at least one season and fought it out, but here we are.
I know, but obviously Beale's like that too. Or you're not really going to get the first team jerseys like that. Butland's my number one because he just went, well, I mean, as well leaving.
I think McCrory and McLaughlin, there's not going to be much in terms of a fee between them because he's not played a lot of football himself.
Aye.
As I say, sad to see him go. I'd like to have seen him fight out. I don't know if what you say,
Well.
Michael Beale telling him that he might not be his number one. I don't know if that decision's been made or not. I'd like to think it wouldn't be made. I'd like to think that both goalies would have been kept on their toes and made to fight out, and the manager would pick them on form. And then obviously you sort of get the feeling after sort of 4 or 5 games who's going to have that jersey and who's going to be keeping it. But no, I do think Jack Butland is going to be the signing in the summer. I really do, in terms of on a free transfer, and it's a position we've been needing for 1 or 2 certainly.
Let's hope so.
Next one is the other free agent. This it didn't come out of left field, but it was one that got kind of gathered steam very, very quickly, and it was the return of Leon Balogun. Robert, I'll stay with you for this now. I've seen a lot of kind of different feels on this. Now, I get it. If you're not happy with this, then I understand why. But as a squad option, would you rather have a 35-year-old Leon Balogun with a bit of experience, or would you rather go into a Champions League potential with James Sands and Leon King? So
exactly
on that side of it, Robert, I kind of get where Beale's going with this.
But again, we touched on it before. It's all about making mistakes and learning from them. The club got stuck this year in this, so he's moved quickly. Obviously, Kings took the injury. He's moved quickly. We want to make sure we've got centre halves for these qualifying games. Obviously, goals is probably not going to be up to speed for those. So you bring on Leon Balogun. Listen, he had some good displays in the Europa League. Had a really good game. I remember stepping in for Tavernier at right back in Old Firm as well. And I genuinely think his time at Rangers was successful. He won a league, won a cup, got to European final. I don't understand the furore around it. The guy clearly loved the club. He didn't want to leave Glasgow when you read into it. So he jumped at the chance to come back. I think, listen, Leon Balogun hasn't been Michael Beale's centre-half option that he's been tracking all summer. Let's not beat about the bush. There has been other players looked at, and I'm sure we will bring in maybe one other centre-half. I think he's a good option. Comes into the squad. He's obviously a big character. He's well liked by the players that are already in the squad that knew him from before. I'm sure the new guys will pull off his experience for settling in as well. So, no, I'm happy with the addition. Again, I don't think he'll be on massive sums of money, which is good. The only thing with Leon is he does obviously pick up injuries. If they're managed properly, we've got the Doc back, obviously. Then
which is the best signing of the summer, by the way.
There you go. So I just think if he's managed properly, Leon Balogun could be invaluable. I really do. So no qualms from me, Scott. But as you say, it really has split opinion, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it's that thing. I can see where both sides of it. I can see. I think a fit Leon Balogun is a better option than a young kind of a midfielder getting into centre half, for example. So that squad option I get. I also see the thing of you need. I think we'll touch on this later on. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Ben Davis moving on, but I think that's something we can touch on in a minute.
Please, God.
I think we will see a new left-sided centre back, and I just think Balogun's a safe option just to have there and King still to come back as well. So I think the more options in that position, the better. The move on to the kind of big signings, particularly in forward areas. The first one, Craig, I really like this signing. Totally understand it. The signing of, on a season-long loan from Brighton, Abdallah Sima. Now, that name will be familiar to Rangers fans if you watched him against Slavia Prague. I thought he was really good in both games. And again, people are saying it's a loan. If there's no option to buy, then I'm not interested. If Rangers can get a £6 million worth player for a season and he scores 15 goals and helps Rangers to a title, Abdallah Sima will be a hero.
Exactly, who cares? Say that. If he comes and does a job for 1 or 2 years, that's what you want. See, when you think about it, players nowadays will probably, even if you sign them permanently, they'll go to a club for 2 or 3 years maximum. So if you can get a loan deal with them and pay hardly any money for them, then you'll take it. Sima done really well against us a couple of years ago. He was one of the ones when we played Slavia. He was so fast, so powerful. He's just one of those. And I remember as well, he scored a goal against Leicester as well, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Which was very good. I like to look at him. He's fast, he's powerful, he's pacey, he's got an eye for a goal. The only thing that I'm wondering is he replacing Fashion or not? We don't know
Well,
because
that's
we've heard the rumours, haven't we, mate, about Saudi Arabia? But so I was saying, listen, if he comes in, even on a loan deal and scores, listen, if he scores goals to win Rangers the championship next year, I don't care if it's a loan deal or a permanent deal. We'll take him every day of the week.
and
Listen,
that's
one
it.
thing, sorry, Scott, one thing you can't fault is Brighton's recruitment over the last
Oh,
couple of
aye,
has been
aye.
spot on. I know the boy had a difficult sort of spell at Angers last season in Lagoon, and obviously they were relegated. A different sort of challenge for him coming to Rangers because you could be at a different end of a table fighting for different prizes. So hopefully he'll get more chances. And by all accounts, he was really good in the closed doors game.
Oh, mate, his goal the other day was fucking brilliant, by the way.
So hopefully he can carry on in that mental, because the trouble is with pre-season, you can't judge them too much.
I know even. Aye.
Once the pressure comes in, etc., then we can make the commitment. Because I remember watching Ravi Matondo against West Ham and thinking, yeah, well beaten, and we know how that's ended. So, no, Abdallah Sima is a sensible loan, absolutely.
Next one, Robert, I'll stay with you. Sam Lammers coming in from Atalanta, very much a player who's lost his way. Very much. Well, we've got a thing going out on Monday that will tell us about the two forwards, Lammers and Dessers. We'll start with Lammers. A lot of people seem to be looking at the goal record. I've spoken to a lot of people who know him from Holland. They seem to think he could be the real deal.
Yeah, he's certainly lost his way. To Atalanta was probably a strange one at the time, and he's gone to Italy and struggled really. But let's be honest, Serie A is a tough league. And obviously Atalanta are a club that probably on an upper trajectory, playing European football as well, really pushing for Champions League, etc. So, listen, you can look at numbers. I'm guessing Michael Beale's probably not at the moment. He's probably looking at the way players are going to play and into a system that he's trying to utilise. So, again, he was one that got a good review from the closed doors game. I don't know a lot about the guy, and I'm hoping that he is one that can come in and again hit the ground running, because, as you say before, he needs a home. This guy, he's been bobbing about for the last few seasons. If he can maybe find that a route at Ibrox and stay for 2-3 years, and we can get the best out of him, because what you don't want to do is, listen, you're not going to get every transfer right. You're not going to get 100% strike rate. All you can try and do is make sure you scout these guys properly and put a bit of time into your homework, like Michael Beale's been doing. And Michael Beale knows he's going to live and die on the sword, but with his signings. So Sam Lammers out the bunch that we've brought in, I would probably say is the one that I don't know a lot about and maybe underwhelms me the most, because I think in forward areas, in recent years we have lacked goals from the likes of Ryan Kent. Alfredo Morelos maybe tailed off a wee bit. Cholak never really captured his early season form after Christmas and his injury. And then you've got Fashion Zakala, who probably has been the man that stepped up last year, who's rumoured to be leaving. So these guys that we have brought in are going to need a Rangers striker is judged on goals. I heard Ali McCoy talking about Morelos in a breath, saying, a Rangers striker's judged a bit against goals against Celtic. And I think maybe Cyril Dessers, who you'll move on to in a moment, is the man that could fill that mantle.
Cyril Dessers is obviously the one, I would say, if you were to say who's the number one transfer target that Michael Beale had, it was 100% Cyril Dessers. He was at him constantly. There's been a lot of talk that he turned the move down. That wasn't true. And it was a pursuit, Craig. He's got it done. Dessers looks to be the main man. I could see another striker coming in that we'll maybe touch on in a minute, but Cyril Dessers looks to be the big spend, and I think this could be a wee bit of an upgrade in Alfredo Morelos, because I see all the things Alfredo Morelos does, but I also see, from what I've seen of him over the years, a goal scorer. I do see a goal scorer if he gets chances. Now, people were saying about last year, he only scored 6 goals in Serie A for Cremonese. He wasn't getting many chances at Cremonese, so he's going to get a lot more chances at Rangers. I can see this working out. I think, yes, it's a lot of money for a 28-year-old, but I don't think right now you're looking towards the future with these type of players. Rangers need to win now, and Rangers need to spend big to get players in to win the championship. And this is the big spend, in my opinion. I don't see Rangers spending. Maybe Danilo if they sign him, but it's definitely Dessers was the number one target for the striker option.
100%, mate. The way I try and compare it to in a wee council way is, well, when Man United signed Van Persie in 2012 just to win him that one league. That's the way I see Dessers. He's here to do a job. He's here. He's not getting any selling value. Who cares about that? It's time that people stop doing the whole football manager stuff like the Rangers and all that. So we need to do this, we need to do that. Listen, we just want good players to play for our club. We just want players to come in, do a job, do the best they can, win games, win championships for their club. And Dessers, he seems very good on the face of it anyway. Put it this way, he's a man that Beale wanted. He is Beale's man. So I'll trust the manager. I'll trust Beale. I'll trust Michael Beale with what he says. He wants Dessers. He got Dessers. People say it took a while. What's it date just now? 16th of July. The 16th of... Listen, it's the 16th of July then. About a week ago. It's brilliant. It's like we've done all the major signings that you're supposed to do about a week ago.
Yeah.
Listen, I think he'll be good.
The thing is with Dessers is, again, you look at him and he's another one that's never really stayed anywhere longer than 2 seasons. Which again, come to Rangers and find that home and be a cult hero for us, like a Morelos. You look, like Scott said, his goals, especially for Feyenoord, they scored some crackers in the
Conference League, aye.
And at Heracles, he finished top goal scorer as well. So I think he's a player that thrives on confidence. If he can again hit the ground running early, get some goals, get the fans on side, he'll be one that I think can do the job for Rangers. Absolutely, no doubt about it.
I'm expecting a elevates type of signing for just do a job for 2 seasons.
That would be lovely, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be lovely. I love that, man.
And I don't think Rangers are done in terms of incomings. There's the Jose Cifuentes thing. I don't know if you've seen my tweet. He has said more goodbyes than Anne Robinson. He has. He has. He's very much a case of.
I know.
There's something. I don't think it's a term of player. I think player wants to come, but I think it's more. There's something to do with the LAFC. I don't think it's 100% done yet. I think it will.
Well, it looks as if I've got him at least for January. It looks as if I've got a pre-contract sorted. So
the thing
whether that sorts itself out in the next few weeks or no, we'll wait and see. But it looks as if he's a player for the long term anyway. So
yeah, I think he will be a Rangers player by the end of July. I think I would put money on that.
Right?
Yeah, I would think so.
He looks solid. He looks athletic. He gets in the box for goals.
Rangers have not had a player like that for a long time.
Exactly. So when it first gets sort of muted, when you check him out on YouTube as you do, you're sitting there salivating. Plus, he's South American. I love a South American. So,
listen, we need another South American number 20 to just
take over Felfredo.
I know, mate.
Listen, we'd all agree we want them now. If we can get them in earlier, the better. But if we're so beat, if we have to wait
we've got them anyway. So
another player who could be coming in with a South American name is Danilo. Now, this to me all depends on outgoings. Now, I think the first thing of this is done. I think with Cholan going, I think it obviously frees up a space. I will be surprised if Danilo's not a Rangers player. I think it looks to be a case of just the fee. I think player wants to come. I think Feyenoord are quite keen to sell. I think for the right price. Robert, Danilo would be a cracking signing. He would be. I've seen him at Feyenoord. Avid Dutch football follower. He was one that caught my eye last season. He's not going to start for Feyenoord because there are a couple of players in front of him. But when he got a chance, he looked a good player.
Also, in the pre-season games, he scored a couple of goals as well, hasn't he? So he again, and he looks lively in the box. Like as I said before, I'm Walter Nally. I love a Brazilian, and who, you know what I mean. So I think again, it's an exciting one. But comes in, he's going to come in with a large fee. Now, are we going to then play 2 up front because you've bought Dessers as well for a big fee? He's going to expect to start. You've then get. Obviously, Sima and Lammers probably might play wider. It's an interesting sort of headache for Michael Beale if he's got all four of them to pick from, and it does then seem to say that you'd have to let Sakala go because there's no way he's going to break in with those four in front of them, right?
But that's been the big thing for me, like particularly last season when I've looked at the Rangers bench a lot and I've thought, where's the options if you need a goal? And if you've got two big players that are starting up front, and you've got the likes of Seema and Lammers that come on if you're needing a goal, and maybe one more. Rangers need options. They need options that are going to score goals. They didn't have it last year.
Well, here's one for options, right? So I'll compare the players that Celtic signed to the players that Rangers signed. So see Scott Wright, I compare him to the Celtic version of Haksabanovic. Now, Haksabanovic cost about £2 million. Didn't score that many goals. He scored about 5 or 6 goals for Celtic last year, but it was 5 or 6 more goals than Scott Wright scored. Yep. That cost £2 million. Scott Wright cost what, £100,000 or whatever, development fee, blah blah blah. You've got to pay the money for the squad players. You've got to pay the money for the squad players. You've got to get them in, because see, if you don't, you need a squad to win the championship. You don't need a start 11, you need a squad to win the championship. And we really need a squad to win the championship. Now, I think Sakala, I love fashion. He's brilliant. He's got a great goals to games ratio, assists, blah, blah, blah. I understand the whole thing. If we get money for him, we'll accept it. We should accept it. But listen, if we get £4 million for him, it's like, well, who's going to cost £4 million that will guarantee you like 12 league goals and like 8 assists or something like that? It's like it's few and far between. So,
Craig, sorry, the trouble is the squad we've got as it stands today is massive. So if you're going to get,
I know, no, you're right. I know.
Offer for any players that are maybe
we've got about 5 strikers on £20,000 a week.
You need to bite the hand off. So
I know.
Even if a bid comes in for Hadji, that'll need to be looked at. So I do think we need to start looking some players on, because this squad's
right, mate.
I think with outgoings, like the one that is really kind of catching my eye the past couple of weeks, and I've been very vocal about Borna Barisic in the past. I'm a big Borna Barisic fan, but I think he's done. I think he's done at Rangers. I don't think he can. I think if he goes on and has a phenomenal season and has one bad game, all I'll think about is what Lila Bada did to him in that game. And it's that thing, and it's that.
I know.
And again, he's been there too long. Same with Glenn Kamara. Glenn Kamara should have been sold for 10, 12 million. You'll be lucky to get 3 million. Now, it's still good business from what you paid, but it's really, really poor when you think about it, because that guy completely down tools last season and should have been sold then and there. And I think there's a big upgrade. Raskin's a far better player than Glenn Kamara is right now. Todd Cantwell's a far better player than who was there before him. Right, Rangers midfield has been a case of neat and tidy players like a Jack, like a Lundstrom, who are really good players, but they all do the same thing. If you bring in Cifuentes, Rangers have got a completely different midfield, and it's a midfield that can go toe-to-toe with Celtics, who have got 3 players who do 3 different things and complement each other so well. Rangers haven't had that, and if Rangers can have that, they can challenge at the top. It's interesting we speak. On you go, sorry.
Just on Barisic, just feeds into, it's a massive, massive season for Yilmaz, isn't it? Because the starts, he always had an injury. I'm guessing he took time to settle into life in Glasgow as well. Then what we did see him in what Craig described as meaningless games towards the end of the season, he was actually decent. But it's a massive, massive season for him now. He's got to actually command that jersey, command that position, and really, this has got to be his breakthrough season in Scotland. So Barisic has got last year of his contract, with the worst talks that he was going to negotiate a new one. Do you really want to do that with a guy?
I think you would only be doing that for sell-on value, but again, I don't see you getting a fortune for him. I know
there's no sell-on value for Barisic
right now. No, I think if you get a £2 million deal, if there's something, if Nottingham Forest are interested and you can do something with him and Panzo, I would do it right away and move on with Yilmaz. Absolutely. I think you could find a left back, kind of kicking about in England, a young left back could come in and do a job as an understudy and go it that way. But again, we could talk about transfers all day. Before we wrap up, there's a couple of points I want to make. We finally had a conclusion. We're changing the subject from transfers. We finally had a conclusion to the row regarding the Singe sponsorship deal. Now, Craig, I'll come to you for this. Now, we'll ask both of you. Neil Doncaster, right? I'm not a fan of Neil Doncaster, never have been, but what I don't understand how this man has been let away with not apologising, because he has completely again made himself out to be a fool.
I don't even think Neil Doncaster understands Neil Doncaster.
Please don't
I
swear.
mean, I know. It's very strange. This whole row, we all knew what the outcome was going to be.
Yeah.
We knew the outcome was going to be 2 years ago. And yet the SPFL still decided to go ahead with it. And we'll do this, and we'll do that. And once again, Rangers were vindicated a few weeks ago, but it's like, oh, Rangers are vindicated. People are like, oh, who cares? Who cares? Because Rangers always seem to be vindicated nowadays. I mean, the whole thing about him surviving. I mean, people say, oh, how can Doncaster survive this? He will survive it. Do you know why? Because it's Neil Doncaster. That's why he'll survive it. That's why he'll survive it. I know he shouldn't. He shouldn't have survived about 10 years ago, but he does. Do you know what? It's an absolute disgrace. I'm sick and tired of this league, and this is the thing, right? This isn't even about Rangers, Celtic, blah blah blah. It's not about that. It's about the good of Scottish football. What do you want for your sport, your national sport in this country, right? We all love Scottish football, right? We all love it. What do you want for it? Do you want a guy that's there taking 400 grand a year? 400 grand a year for what? To go and sit like what? No.
Robert, I like to think of myself as quite a decent salesperson. I work in retail, and I like to think of myself as quite good at sales. Even I couldn't negotiate an £800,000 settlement fee in a 2-year notice period.
Aye.
So again, you have to wonder what goes on in the world. But again, Craig makes the point, and it's a point I've made all week to everybody that's asked me about it. This was so clear what was going to happen here. Like there was only one outcome.
Yeah, I think as well, just on Neil Doncaster, it's like a cat of this man. Like he really should have blood in his hands in terms of the way he's ran our game for a number of years. We've had leagues without sponsors, tournaments without sponsors, TV deals that are just not living up to it. And then he rolls out the phrase about, Scottish football per head of population is, I think, the most watched or attended in Europe. That should be a unique selling point. It should be something that we should be punting to broadcasters, etc. So, no, I think if and when he does go, it would be a new dawn. You'd like to think somebody will come in with a bit more of a sales mentality, as you say, and maybe strike better deals for us.
I'd do it. I'd be good at it. I'd be good at it.
He's putting his application in.
I agree, mate.
I'll send an application form. Do you know what I mean? Like
400 grand a year. I'm wanting some of your salary, Scott.
Yeah, I'll donate it. Do you know what I mean? Like that. Yeah.
See, the worst thing about Neil Doncaster, right? He says, and I quote, "I am a servant of the clubs." He says he's a servant of the clubs.
No, that's a nonsense. An absolute nonsense.
Exactly.
I just think as well, bigger story now, Scott, is how this is handled by this investigation, etc. So that outweighs the result for our football club, and I think it's out now how now the SPFL and the SFA tidy up this business.
And I don't want to end the show talking about Neil Doncaster. It's the first show. It's a positive light. So let's end it with what we're going to have on Tuesday night. You will see a column going out on Tuesday where we pay tribute to Alan McGregor, and just what I think is such a really interesting Rangers career of somebody, maybe a similar vibe to Robbie McCrory in terms of had to wait his time to get his run at Rangers, but once he got it, what a phenomenal player he was for Rangers over 2 spells. And we're going to see a full house on Tuesday night, and I think it's only fitting. And Craig, it's going to be a great tribute to a phenomenal Rangers goalkeeper.
I love Alan McGregor. I mean, some people might disagree with me, but I think Alan McGregor's the best ever at Rangers, in my personal opinion. I love him. And he actually transcends generations, Alan McGregor. Because remember when he came in under Paul Le Guen, when Lionel Ratisi was being, well, Lionel Lattuza. And he came in for that season in Manchester where it was unbelievable. And Werder Bremen, it was incredible. And then even the game at Celtic Park where we lost 2-1 in the last minute, well, he got injured and he saved the penalty for Scott McDonald. That was incredible. But we all know what happened a couple of years later, you know. Samaras took a penalty, he saved that. 2011. And then he went to Turkey, he went to Hull. Then he came back. And it's a wee bit like Walter, isn't it? It's like, we all talk about Walter like, oh, the first time he was this, that, the next thing, he was brilliant. It's like, nah, he was all that. But then there was a second time.
Mhm.
Very similar. It's like there was a second time McGregor came back, got us back into Europe, the penalty save in Maribor, to the Europa League final. And we know it was a season too much for him last year. We know that, but still can't hate Alan McGregor.
You
No way.
absolutely can. And Robert, I think it's only fair that a full house in a Tuesday, July night to pay tribute to him. It's a great opportunity for him to go out on a high. Might not be over as a player, but just as a Rangers career, it's some story, and it is. It's something that has to be well documented. And I think it's brilliant that the place is going to be filled Tuesday night to see him.
Listen, it's the first time I've ever seen people on social media asking for Spurs for a friendly. Honest to God, people are going mad for it, and it's fitting. He deserves it. Like, I'm not going to bring in the Gorham debate because I think that's probably for another day.
Yeah.
And Craig's covered saves and performances and trophies, but I'd like maybe just to talk a wee minute about the teammate and the man that Alan McGregor's been, because you listen to his teammates talking, and that might be Steve Davis for his first spell, or it might be Andy Halliday for his second spell, and they just all talk about how much of a winner this guy is, and his mindset and his determination in training to give his best, and hates conceding in training, and just an absolute symbolises the club. Symbolise the club, and I do believe, you know, had he not had to leave Rangers due to what had happened in 2012, he'd probably surpassed John Greig for appearances, you know. But that's, you know, that's just my honest opinion. So I do think that he's deserving of Tuesday night, because I think that Scottish Cup debacle when he came on was not the right way to say goodbye to a guy that's been that decorated for the club. So not delighted for him. And Newcastle will be a good test for us in terms of they're maybe a week or so behind the preparation. So it'll be a good night.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one that we'll talk about in the next episode of the Rangers assessment. It's been a brilliant first show. We could have spoke about a lot more, and we're going to wrap it up there. If you're looking for Rangers content, then this is the place for you. All week we're going to have a column every day talking about all the big news. And we'll be back in exactly 2 weeks where we'll start with the weekly episodes. But for the first show, it's been great to have the two guests. I'll start, first of all, thank you very much to Craig Ray.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.
And thank you very much as well to Robert Clark. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, cheers, mate. Enjoyed it. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Thank you very much, everyone that's tuned in. Please share it, and we'll see you all soon. Cheers.